Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to SFF180. It is Monday morning, August the 30th, and time for a long-delayed mailbag, a long-delayed one. I know, it's been, I meant to get a mailbag up last Monday. Stuff happened, life intruded, but this week we're going to be hopefully starting back up with some regular content again. I seem to be promising that a lot, but things have been intruding lately and sort of preventing that. But with September now on the horizon this week, and Space Opera September beginning formally, look to see a whole lot more activity here on the channel a bit more regularly, the way it should be. But the delay in this mailbag means that we've got a pretty chunky one. This has, I'd say, probably, at least 24 earcs going all the way into spring of 2022. So an exciting look ahead there. And a decent handful of physicals as well. So I don't really have much in the way of announcements other than it's good to be back. So let's, without any further ado, get into these. All right, starting with the physicals. As always, we have a little bitty package here from an outfit called Neon Hemlock Press. There are two novellas in this little package that I'm very happy to see. Neon Hemlock Press is an independent outfit who do, SFF and horror novellas, it looks like, at least based on these. And this is one called The Necessity of Stars. The author is E. Catherine Tobler. Beautiful looking book. And so let's see what it's all about. It says, the appearance of the alien Tura in the shadows of diplomat Brion Hammerly's garden raises new questions about the world's decline. Perhaps together, Tura and Brion will find a way forward if only Brion can remember it. And so this has been described, let's see, by A.C. Wise as a beautiful and occasionally heartbreaking story of first contact, climate change, friendship, and a firm repudiation of the idea that older women don't get to go on adventures. Okay. Well, that is The Necessity of Stars, and I believe it is out currently from Neon Hemlock Press. And also in that same package, we have this novella. It's called And What Can We Offer You Tonight? And the author is Premi Muhammad, who has written Beneath the Rising. It's a duology for Solaris, I believe. And this one, it says, Loyalty, Guilt, and Justice in a Far Future City. Jewel is an established courtesan in the luxurious house of Bicheri. Jewel's world is shaken when her friend Winfield is murdered by a client, but somehow comes back to life. To get revenge, they will both have to confront the limits of loyalty, guilt, and justice. Alex Beckett, an author I very much admire, says, a meticulously balanced cocktail of heartbreak, compromise, and consequence, a mixture whose flavor that will seep into your marrow and print itself into your blood forever. Okay, All right, interesting looking. Premi Muhammad is a very interesting writer, and so, And What Can We Offer You Tonight? Looks like a murder mystery in a future city, and that is available also from Neon Hemlock Press right now. And next up with the physicals, I have a little handful of these white envelopes. That usually means Macmillan, Tor, and, affiliated imprints from them. Well, exciting things in here. We have two novellas from Tor.com publishing in that envelope, and the first of these is the finished copy, at last, very happy to have this, of Light Chaser. It's a new space opera, which I've already gotten as an e-arc, but it's a collaboration between Peter F. Hamilton and Gareth Powell, two authors I very much admire. I don't know how Gareth got Peter F. Hamilton to work on such a short book, but here we are. But this came out on August the 24th, apparently. And it says it's a captivating space opera about a lonely soul roaming through space, inquiring about the worlds that once were and could still be, that is, unless she fails to save them. Amelie, or Amal, probably Amal, I'm going to say, is a light chaser, one of a number of explorers who travel the universe alone, trading trinkets for memory collars that hold generations' worth of life stories. Going from planet to planet throughout the galaxy, she visits ecosystems that haven't grown past the medieval era to those who have technology beyond our comprehension. Her constant companion on these years-long excursions are a trusty tabby cat and the stories stored within the memory collars. Does the cat wear the memory collars? That's what I would like to know. While listening to one such caller from an ex-lover sent down through the ages, she hears a voice talking directly to her, eventually turning into a pattern. The same voice from different times and on different worlds from different callers. She comes to understand that something is amiss with her 1,000-year light chaser journey, and only she is in a position to do anything about it, and it will cost everything to put it right. An emblem of what it means to live life in companionship, Hamilton and Powell spin an intergalactic adventure of humility and a love that spans over lifetimes, powerful enough to transcend death and bring down an entire empire. All right, well, very exciting. I am sure to make this part of my SOS reading this year because, again, love these two authors. I've been waiting a long time for this one. So Light Chaser is available now from Tor.com Publishing. And also just in from Tor.com, this is very exciting to see. This is an arc for a new book coming out on November 16th. It's by Adrian Tchaikovsky, who is insanely prolific. And this is called Elder Race. And it looks stunning. So let's see what this one is all about. It says, I am going to make a momentous decision. Most likely it is a bad decision. Certainly it may be the last major decision I ever make. Liness is the lowly fourth daughter of the queen, and always getting in the way. But a demon is terrorizing the land, and now she's an adult, albeit barely, with responsibilities, she tells herself. Although she still gets in the way, she understands that the only way to save her people is to invoke the pact between her family and the elder sorcerer, who has inhabited the local tower for as long as her people have lived here, though none in living memory has approached it. But Elder Nair isn't a sorcerer, and he is forbidden to help, and his knowledge of science tells him the threat cannot possibly be a demon. All right then, so Elder Race, a little hint of the Lovecraftian there in the title, by Adrian Tchaikovsky, available from Tor.com Publishing on November 16th. And another white envelope, but this one says it's coming in from Soho Press. All right, this is the finished copy in hardcover of a very interesting looking book. I've seen this series, but I've never really gotten into it. And I've only just started getting books from Soho Press now, so I'm trying to get them to give me the first 3 books in this series. This is the 4th book in a 4-volume series. It's called Malefactor. The entire series is called The War with No Name. The first 3 books were Mort, M-O-R-T-E, and followed by, gosh, I can't read these titles. It's okay. All right, I can't read the titles because of the font choice on these tiny little cover things. The 3rd book is called Dare, with an apostrophe after the D. And as you see, they all have these animal-themed covers. And it says the war between humans and sentient animals. Okay, so that's it's all about a global interspecies conflict. And it says it's a dystopian series perfect for fans of A Canticle for Leibowitz and Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which is an interesting bit of marketing there. It says, in the War with No Name series, Robert Rapino has crafted a world of ambitious scope where the fantastical, realized in sentient animals both ferocious and soulful, becomes allegorical for political conflict, spiritual indoctrination, and exploitative leadership in the human world. Beginning with his utterly absorbing debut, Mort, the series follows the violence and aftermath of a global interspecies war instigated by the Colony, a race of intelligent ants led by a vengeful queen intent on eradicating the destructive, oppressive human race. So there you go. Using a secret technology to transform all surface animals into high-functioning two-legged beings, the colony conscripts house pets and wild animals alike in its unnamed war that forever changes life on Earth. Packed with action and rousing philosophical questions, this epic dystopian series reads like a bloodier post-apocalyptic Animal Farm. Rapino builds a gloriously strange world where anthropomorphic cats and beavers are as intricately developed as any human, begetting immersive journeys and shocking revelations in a thrilling series reminiscent of Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver's Planet of the Apes reboots from the past decade. Okay. And so this is the final novel. It says, the impressive series that began with an IO9 very best science fiction and fantasy book of the year gets the enthralling, fulfilling finale it deserves in Malefactor. So there you are. Malefactor, the final book in the War with No Name series. All about, the animals are just, taking it to us, I guess. So tomorrow, in hardcover. And it looks like we are back to Tor books for this one. All right, well, I'm very happy to have this. In fact, I think this is the first physical review copy I've gotten from Nightfire so far. This is the new novel by Brahm called Slewfoot, A Tale of Bewitchery. Brahm is a novelist who does these kind of dark fable-type fantasies, and they are always in these elaborately illustrated editions that, Brahm himself illustrates. So this comes out on September the 14th from Tor Nightfire, which is their new horror imprint. And it says, if it's a devil you seek, then it is a devil you shall have. A deal with the devil, reimagined as the clash between pagan and Puritan, as only dark fantasist and award-winning author Brahm can tell it. Slewfoot, A Tale of Bewitchery, is set against the backdrop of colonial America, and reignites a classic tale of magic, triumph, and trepidation, as ancient terrors rise and recall loyalties and the primordial darkness takes its hold on a small village. In Connecticut, 1666, an ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The woodfolk call him Father, Slayer, Protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, Demon. Our darling Abatha, widowed, outcast, vulnerable, and alone in her pious village, calls him Samson, for he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together they unite to create something beautiful and terrible, which ignites a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in their wake. Perfect for fans of The Witch and Ready or Not. This illustrated novel features more than 24 of Brahm's haunting original paintings, fully immersing readers in his wild and unforgiving world. Okay, roaring, bloody, and an extraordinary feat of the sublime. Slewfoot once again proves Brahm's rightful place as a master of the world of the weird, the monstrous, and the beautiful. And it's available, as I said, September 14th from Nightfire. And just to give you an idea of what to expect from some of these interior illustrations here. I mean, yeah, that's really something. Really lovely. Wow. Okay, so moving down the stack, I think we only have a couple more physical packages, and this one comes in from Random Penguin. Oh, this is fantastic. I'm very happy to have this in physical form. This is the new anthology AI 2041. This comes out from a new imprint, or at least a new-to-me imprint, called Currency, which I guess is, through the Random Penguin parent company. This comes out also on the 14th of September. The authors are Kai-Fu Lee and Chen Q-Fan. Now, Chen Q-Fan is a Chinese author, of course, who wrote the novel Waste Tide, which I thought was fantastic. I reviewed that here about a year or so ago. And this is described as 10 Visions for Our Future in AI 2041. A groundbreaking blend of scientific forecasting and imaginative storytelling, the leading AI expert and a celebrated writer of speculative fiction join forces to answer an imperative question: how will artificial intelligence change our world within 20 years? AI will be the defining development of the 21st century, claims this sell sheet. Within 2 decades, aspects of daily human life will be unrecognizable. In just the last 5 years, AI has become the world's hottest technology, with AI beating human champions in Go and poker, solving a 50-year-old riddle of biology called protein folding. AI has helped radiologists diagnose lung cancer and even outperformed judges in issuing fair and consistent sentencing. As AI continues to advance, where does it all lead? AI is at a tipping point and people need to wake up, both through its radiant pathways and its existential perils for life as we know it. Okay, not being an expert in this field by a long shot, not even really having basic training in it, it seems to me, in my own opinion, it seems to me like AI at the end of the day is probably not going to be any different from, any sort of computer programming that has existed since the dawn of computers, right? It's going to be garbage in, garbage out, won't it? And any kind of problems that were inherent in traditional coding are probably going to find their way into AI, right? I mean, wasn't it the Google AI that, I think some sort of machine learning situation where they kind of set it loose and within like half a day, it basically turned into a racist, right? Because it was exposed to just social media. And so it learned there's all kinds of... Let's just say I am far from being someone who is sold on the idea that AI will be, a wonderful thing. But I think that this anthology or this collection, as it were, is likely to address all of the aspects of it, including those, I'm sure. But it says, okay, Kai-Fu Lee, the celebrated AI pioneer, former president of Google China and best-selling author of AI Superpowers, joins forces with novelist Chen Qiu-fan, whom Wired recently described as an oracle of science fiction realism, to imagine how our world will be shaped by AI in 2041. Okay, and so in the first 3.5 decades of Lee's AI research, it was mainly confined to academia, but now it's going to examine it on a large scale. Okay, interesting. Well, AI 2041, 10 Visions for Our Future, available on September the 14th from Currency Press. I mean, after all, that's what speculative fiction is meant to do, right? Speculate. So, very interesting. Okay, moving on. We have, 2 more now, and this one comes in. Oh, it's a little book from Amazon Publishing. All right, and this is the finished copy. I've already gotten an ARC for this, of a book called Constance. The author is Matthew Fitzsimmons. This comes out September the 1st. And it says it's an explosive new tech thriller. What if detective and victim were the same person? Let's see. So, new standalone novel, a cool hybrid of classic mystery fused with speculative fiction, presents the eponymous main character, Constance Con Darcy. She's a tough and resilient survivor whom Fitzsimmons imbues with emotional vulnerability. It says, in the near future, technology allows the very wealthy to cheat death by buying their own clones for $20 million and regularly uploading their consciousnesses. Con is broke, but she was gifted a clone by her late aunt, who was instrumental in the program's development. After a routine monthly upload, stored for that inevitable transition, something goes wrong. When Con wakes up in the clinic, it's 18 months later. Her recent memories are missing. Her original, she's told, is dead. If that's true, what does that make her? Faced with the horrifying realization, Con finds herself investigating her own murder with no resources, no recollections to use as guidance, and no trustworthy allies. Doggedly, she retraces the steps of her original, determined to find out why she died and keep it from happening again. All right, then. So, this is Constance by Matthew Fitzsimmons, and it will be available on September the 1st. And the last of the physical books this week, we have this massive package from the Hachette Group. Well, look at this. Hachette has sent me another physical copy of Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Now, I already have a physical copy of this in hardcover, so I guess you know what that means, right? You got it. Another giveaway. Going to go ahead and give this hardcover away. This is the first volume in a new series, new space opera series by Adrian Tchaikovsky. It's the first volume of something called The Final Architecture. So, if you would like to win this hardcover edition of this book, this, I'm afraid, my giveaways are only for my U.S. viewers. I apologize for that. I'm very sorry to my international viewers. That's simply for the reasons of postage costs, which are absolutely astronomical if you're trying to send a book out of the country. It's crazy. So I apologize. This is for U.S. viewers only. But, as always, send me an email to the address below. Use the subject line shards as written right down there. And if you like, you can just include your mailing address or, and a clever, amusing little note or whatever you like. A picture of a puppy dog, I don't care. Not that that will improve your chances, but I'm saying, who doesn't like pictures of puppy dogs, right? Anyway, though, Shards of Earth giveaway now, and I will announce the winner on the very next mailbag. So, good luck to you. So, that does it for the physicals this week. All right, now we're going to move ahead with the e-arcs. And like I said, we're starting with, books coming out as soon as tomorrow, moving all the way ahead into next spring. So quite a lot of stuff here. And we start with this one from Tor. It's Fury of a Demon by Brian Naslund. It's the final installment in a fast-paced adventure series, perfect for comic book readers and fans of heroic fantasy. So it says, War makes monsters of us all. The war against Osiris Ward goes poorly for Bershad and Ashlyn. They are pinned in the Danewood by monstrous alchemical creations and a relentless army of mercenaries, and running out of both options and allies. So, this looks like it's the series for you if you're the kind of person who likes your epic fantasy infused with a whole lot of action. But it wraps up tomorrow with Fury of a Demon by Brian Naslund from Tor Books. Now, next up, we have one that I'm really excited for. This is The Wisdom of Crowds by Joe Abercrombie. It's the final volume in his Age of Madness trilogy. This is set in the same universe as his first Law trilogy, his debut trilogy, and that has also been the setting for several standalone novels that he's written. Books like The Heroes and Best Served Cold, books like that. This one says, some say that to change the world you must first burn it down. Now that belief will be tested in the crucible of revolution. The breakers and burners have seized the levers of power. The smoke of riots has replaced the smog of industry, and all must submit to the wisdom of crowds. Okay, Joe Abercrombie is known and hailed as Lord Grimdark, right? But I feel like for people unfamiliar with his work, that could give you the wrong impression of what his books are like. I mean, yes, there's lots of action and lots of blood and thunder, and there's cynicism, but there is also a whole lot of trenchant wit. I find that there's usually a rich sense of humor in all of his stories. Except perhaps for Half a King, which interestingly is the one series he's done that's been marketed as YA. Those books were surprisingly humorless, really, but most of his, really dark, bloody adult fantasy novels are full of wit. And, that really kind of helps sort of get you through it. And, it carries the message of the novels across in a very effective way. So I think he's really, really good at balancing that tightrope. If you've read, for example, Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames, that combination of humor, and some sadness, just the whole gamut of human emotions is present. So, The Wisdom of Crowds will be available by Joe Abercrombie on September the 14th. And now we're going to move ahead to the following week, September the 28th. And we have a new book by Marina J. Lostetter for you space opera people, people like me. This is a book called Activation Degradation, which frankly sounds like a Daft Punk song, but that's the title. And it goes like this. It says, when Unit 4, a biological soft robot built and stored high above the Jovian atmosphere, is activated for the first time, it's in crisis mode. Aliens are attacking the helium-3 mine it was created to oversee, and now its sole purpose is to defend Earth's largest energy resource from the invaders in ship-to-ship combat. But something's wrong. Unit 4 doesn't feel quite right. There are files in its databanks it can't account for, unusual chemical combinations roaring through its pipes, and the primers it possesses on the aliens are suspiciously sparse. The robot is under orders to seek and destroy, that's all it knows. According to its handler, that's all it needs to know. Determined to fulfill its directives, Unit 4 launches its ship and goes on the attack, but it has no idea it's about to get caught in a downward spiral of misinformation, reprogramming, and interstellar conflict. Most robots are simple tools. Unit 4 is well on its way to becoming something more. And if that has a feeling of being kind of Murderbot to it, yes, that is sort of how this story is being promoted. It's being promoted to Murderbot fans. And, so there you have it. Activation Degradation by Marina Lostetter, author of the Numenon trilogy. This will be available September the 28th. And also on September the 28th, we have another closeout to a trilogy. We have The Bone Ship's Wake by R.J. Barker. And so, yeah, this is a trilogy that is getting very, very high marks from the people who've been reading it. And there's like The Bone Ships, The Call of the Bone Ships, and now we have The Bone Ship's Wake. It says, Joron Twiner's dreams of freedom lay shattered. His shipwife is gone, and all he has left is revenge. Leading the Black Fleet from the dock of Tidechild, he takes every opportunity to hurt the 100 Isles he is given, but his time is limited. His fleet is shrinking, the Kishan's rot is running through his body, and he is hiding from a prophecy that says he and the avian sorcerer, the Wind Seer, will end the entire world. But the sea dragons have returned, a miracle in itself, and who is to say that if you can have one miracle, there cannot be another? So The Bone Ship's Wake on September the 28th looks like it is going to round out the Tidechild trilogy in a big way. All right, so look forward to that then. And finally, also on September the 28th, a busy day, we have a really, really exciting anthology on the horizon. This is called The Year's Best African Speculative Fiction 2021. These are stories from authors based in Africa as well as like African diaspora. And the editor is Ogenechowwe Donald Ekpeki. And the previous anthology that he was involved in editing was Dominion, which had a story that ended up on several awards ballots. So I'm very much looking forward to what this has to offer. You know, exposure to world SF. We all need it. And so it's really great to have this. But this will be the year's Best African Speculative Fiction 2021, and it will be out on September the 28th. Okay, time to move on into October. And the first October title I have for you is something called Sister Song. The author here is Lucy Holland. And it goes like this. It looks to be a historical fantasy, for those of you who like that kind of thing. It says, in the ancient kingdom of Domnonia, there is old magic to be found in the whisper of the wind, the roots of the trees, the curl of the grass. King Kador knew this once, but now the land has turned from him, calling instead to his 3 children. Riva can cure others, but can't seem to heal her own deep scars. Keen battles to be accepted for who he truly is, the king's son. And Sine dreams of seeing the world, of finding adventure. All 3 fear a life of confinement within the walls of the hold, their people's last bastion of strength against invading Saxons. However, change comes on the day ash falls from the sky. It brings with it Myrddin, meddler and magician, and Tristan, a warrior whose secrets will tear them apart. Riva, Keen, and Sin are Sine, perhaps, Sinne, 3 siblings entangled in a web of treachery and heartbreak who must fight to forge their own paths. Their story will shape the destiny of Britain. And that is Sister Song by Lucy Holland on October the 5th. Now, moving ahead, we have this one coming out from Daw Books on October the 12th. It's a book called Glimmer, and the author is Marjorie B. Kellogg. Now, this is not a debut novel. Marjorie Kellogg she has done some fantasy novels, but hasn't really written in a while. Don't know why. She's credited in her bio as being involved in theater a lot, doing like set design, that kind of thing. But this is the first book, according to the internet, that she's published since 2003. So it's been a long hiatus for Marjorie Kellogg. And this is a book called Glimmer. It's out October the 12th. And it says, it's 2110. The Earth's glaciers have melted and there's no climate fix in sight. As refugees stream inland from the inundated coasts, social structures and national economies are stressed to the point of fracture. Food production falters, pandemics rage. Rising sea level and devastating superstorms have flooded much of Manhattan and wrecked its infrastructure. Its residents have mostly fled, but a few diehards have bet their survival on the hope that digging in and staying local is a safer strategy. As the weather worsens, can a damaged population of poor folk, artists, misfits, and loners work out their differences in time to create a sustainable long-term society? In a lawless city, where the well-armed rich have appropriated the high ground, can an ex-priest find a middle road between non-violence and all-out war? The lives of his downtown band of leftovers will depend on it. Sheltering among them, a young girl named Glimmer struggles to regain a past lost to trauma. As her memory returns, she finds she must choose who and how to be, and who and what to believe in, even if it means giving up a love she has only recently found herself able to embrace. So that is Glimmer by Marjorie Kellogg, and it's out October the 12th. And also, on October the 12th, we have one that I am now very, very excited for. This is Inhibitor Phase by Alastair Reynolds. This is the first book in a new series set in the Revelation Space Universe, the Inhibitor Trilogy, along with books like Chasm City and House of Suns and many others. Alastair Reynolds it's kind of tough to know where to recommend people get into Alastair Reynolds, because he's a challenging author, not not very, is not very easy on newcomers. Maybe a book like House of Suns is maybe a good stepping stone into his writing, much more so than Revelation Space. But I find that he's usually worth the effort. Like, it took me 3 tries to finish Revelation Space, and when I first started it, and this would have been back like at the turn of the century. First time I read it, just could not connect with it, bounced off it hard. And by the time, the third time came around, I just blew through it, and I thought, wow, this guy is one of my favorite writers now. So I'm very much looking forward to Inhibitor Phase. It says, for 30 years, a tiny band of humans has been sheltering in the caverns of an airless, crater-packed world called Michaelmas. Beyond their solar system lie the ruins of a human interstellar civilization, stalked by a ruthless, infinitely patient cybernetic entity determined to root out the last few bands of survivors. One man has guided the people of Michaelmas through the hardest of times and given them hope against the wolves, Miguel de Reuter. When a lone human ship blunders into their system and threatens to lead the wolves to Michaelmas, de Reuter embarks on a desperate near-suicide mission to prevent catastrophe. But an encounter with a refugee from the ship, the enigmatic woman who calls herself only Glass, leads to de Reuter's world being turned upside down. And that is Inhibitor Phase, available October the 12th from the Hachette Group. On October the 19th, we have this one that is very interesting, to me anyway. This is a new book by L.E. Modesitt Jr., and it's called Isolate. L.E. Modesitt is a veteran author, incredibly prolific. He's known for the Recluse epic fantasy series. He's a writer that I'm consistently fascinated by, although I can't necessarily say I like all of his books. His writing, his storytelling is very detail-oriented. The pacing can be slow. Sometimes that works against the book. Sometimes it doesn't really have any impact on the book. Sometimes it's exactly the right tone for it. But he's always at least interesting to check out. And this one looks like a very new thing for him. This is a gas lamp fantasy, which is something that he hasn't done before. Which looks also like it has perhaps a bit of, a bit of steampunk in it as well. It goes like this: industrialization, social unrest, underground movements, government corruption and surveillance. Something is about to give. Stefan Deckard is an isolate, one of the small percentage of people who are immune to the projections of empaths. As an isolate, he has been trained as a security specialist, and he and his security partner, Avril Isella, a highly trained empath, are employed by Axel Oberdur, a senior craft minister and the de facto political strategist of his party. When a respected Landor councillor dies of heart failure at a social event because of his political friendship with Oberdur, Deckard and Isella find that not only is their employer a target, but so are they, in a covert and deadly struggle for control of the government and economy. Stefan is about to understand that everything he believed is an illusion. Again, political themes figure very heavily also in Modesitt's work. So this is Isolate, or Isolate. I guess it's meant to be isolate, not isolate. But it is out October the 19th from Tor Books. Now, from Tor.com Books, on the following week, October the 26th, we have another prolific author with another new book. This is a novella by Catherine M. Valente called Comfort Me with Apples. And this one looks very much like a horror thriller sort of a thing, so it has me intrigued. It says, Comfort Me with Apples is a terrifying new thriller from bestseller Catherine M. Valente, who wrote space opera and Radiance, that's it, book I reviewed here a few years ago, for fans of Gone Girl and Spinning Silver. Sophia was made for him, her perfect husband. She can feel it in her bones. He is perfect. Their home together in Arcadia Gardens is perfect. Everything is perfect. It's just that he's away so much. He works so hard. She misses him, and he misses her. He says he does, so it must be true. He is the perfect husband, and everything is perfect. But sometimes Sophie wonders about things. Strange things, dark things, the look on her husband's face when he comes back from a long business trip, the questions he will not answer, the locked basement she's never allowed to enter. Yeah, Sophia, get out of there. Seriously, girl, run. Red flags everywhere. And whenever she asks the neighbors, they can't quite meet her gaze. But everything is perfect, isn't it? So, yes, very tantalizing sounding, isn't it? Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine Valente. And that's out October the 26th, right in time for Halloween, right? Okay, moving on. Epic fantasy fans, we've got one for you. On November the 9th, this is one a lot of people are looking forward to. This is The Fall of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. And this is the finale, I believe, of the series that began with Senlin Ascends. And Senlin Ascends, Josiah Bancroft, basically, this author is another case of a self-publishing success story. a self-publisher who wrote a book, Senlin Ascends, which was very highly thought of. He got picked up by one of the majors, in this case Hachette, and now he is finishing up the series at last with The Fall of Babel. As Marat's siege engine bores through the tower, and erupting inside ringdoms and leaving chaos in its wake, Senlin can do nothing but observe the mayhem from inside the belly of the beast. Caught in a charade, Senlin desperately tries to sabotage the rampaging Hod King, even as Marat's objective grows increasingly clear. The leader of the Zealots is bound for the Sphinx's lair and the unimaginable power it contains. All right, so it's all coming into a head in The Fall of Babel by Josiah Bancroft on November the 9th. And also on November the 9th, for you epic fantasy fans, we have another big one here. This is The God Is Not Willing by Steven Erikson. Steven Erikson, of course, the author of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and, a series that everybody knows, even if you don't read it, and, it's impossible to escape its presence in the field. And so this is the beginning of a new trilogy set in that universe. Now, the thing about Erikson is that, I've not read the entire Malazan Book of the Fallen series. I'd like to, right? I mean, I've read the first 4 books, okay, and that was some years ago. And it's one of those where I'm impressed by the scope of what he's doing and the scale of it and the effort involved in the creation of this entire vision. I'm not always on board with everything that the books are doing. I find the storytelling, I have my criticisms of how each book reads as a novel, but I'm always impressed by at least the scale of what Erikson is attempting and what he's creating here, the canvas that he has given himself to work on. Erikson, I would call critic-proof. He's a critic-proof author because, there are no casual Malazan fans, right? He is in a comfortable position of being able to sell his books and sell them very well to his dedicated fan base because his entire fan base are made up of hardcore fans, right? You are either all in with Malazan or you're not, right? That's just how it is. He writes a specific kind of fantasy that appeals to readers looking for a specific experience. This sort of massive immersive universe to just dive into, right? And the kind of people who love the complexity of figuring out, there's just the thousands of years of lore and all the details, and it's like and it's like you become an actual historian reading the books, and that is probably no doubt stemming from Erikson himself, who is an archaeologist. And, and has that historical knowledge and academic training to work from, right? So you're either all in or you're not. But I'm going to read The God Is Not Willing because I want to, just for my own curiosity, I want to see if this is, as the first book in a new series, something that you could get into without having fresh encyclopedic knowledge of the entire previous 10-book Book of the Fallen series, right? That 10,000 pages, worth of tomes, right? I want to be able to see just how accessible this is if you pick it up and just start in on it. So it'd be interesting to see. Not that I expect to convert any new Malazan fans, people who've already decided, whoops, no way, this isn't for me. And of course, people who are already diehards don't care what I have to say. But I'm going to be curious just for my own experience. But The God Is Not Willing will be available on November the 9th from Tor Books. So we'll see, won't we? Okay, November is looking to be a pretty interesting month now because we have another tome the following week on November the 16th. That's right, it's the new book by Neal Stephenson, and this is called Termination Shock. It says, Neal Stephenson's sweeping, prescient new novel transports readers to a near-future world, in which the greenhouse effect has inexorably resulted in a whirling dervish troposphere of superstorms, rising sea levels, global flooding, merciless heat waves, and virulent, deadly pandemics. Expect to see more and more of these books in the next few years in science fiction, you guys. This is science fiction's new go-to now, right? I mean, if science fiction, if the near-future fiction, if that's what it does, it's a commentary upon the way the world is going, expect to see a lot more of these climate books coming out. One man, visionary billionaire restaurant chain magnate T.R. Schmidt, Ph.D., has a big idea for reversing global warming, a master plan perhaps best described as elemental. But will it work? And just as important, what are the consequences for the planet and all of humanity should it be applied? Ranging from the Texas heartland to the Dutch royal palace in The Hague, from the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas to the sun-baked Chihuahuan desert, Termination Shock brings together a disparate group of characters from different cultures and continents who grapple with the real-life repercussions of global warming. Ultimately, it asks the question, might the cure be worse than the disease? And that is Termination Shock by Neal Stephenson on November the 16th. And rounding out November, we have A Swift and Savage Tide by Chloe Neal. Now, this might be just the thing for you if you're looking for something maybe a little bit more lighthearted. Not quite such heavy themes of, oh no, the climate, oh no, the world is ending, right? Oh no, massive epic fantasy with war and destruction and death. Maybe try something like this. This is Chloe Neal's bold seafaring heroine Captain Kit Brightling sets sail for high seas and high sorcery in this swashbuckling fantasy series. It's the sequel to The Bright and Breaking Sea. Now, I admit, Chloe Neal's previous work has not really been for me, right? She has done, I hate to put it this way, but it's boilerplate urban fantasy stuff, right? You know, vampires and this and that. You know, vampires in Chicago. I think that's it. Not for me, right? Sorry. But this looks to be a bit more like the kind of thing I might be willing to read. It says, Captain Kit Brightling is aligned to the magic of the sea, which makes her an invaluable asset to the Saxon Isles and its monarch, Queen Charlotte. The Isles and its allies will need every advantage they can get. Gerard Rousseau, the former Gallic emperor and scourge of the continent, has escaped his island prison, to renew his quest for control of the continent. So this seems like it's a bit more along the lines of Naomi Novik's Temeraire. I mean, it doesn't have dragons, but you get the idea, right? It's all high seas adventure and fun. Yeah, okay, and, you know, there's a place for that kind of thing. So, A Swift and Savage Tide by Chloe Neal will be available November the 30th from Ace Books. Moving ahead, this one now looks really nice and interesting. For those of you who like Asian-themed fantasy. And this is something called Daughter of the Moon Goddess. The author is Sulin Tan. And it's described as a captivating debut fantasy inspired by the legend of the Chinese moon goddess Chang'e, in which a young woman's quest to free her mother pits her against the most powerful immortal in the realm and sets her on a dangerous path, where choices come with deadly consequences and she risks losing more than her heart. Growing up on the moon, Qing Yin is accustomed to solitude, unaware that she's being hidden from the powerful celestial emperor who exiled her mother for stealing his elixir of immortality. But when Qing Yin's magic flares and her existence is discovered, she is forced to flee her home, leaving her mother behind. Alone, untrained, and afraid, she makes her way to the Celestial Kingdom, a land of wonder and secrets. Disguising her identity, she seizes an opportunity to learn alongside the Crown Prince, mastering archery and magic, even as passion flames between her and the Emperor's son. Daughter of the Moon Goddess begins an enchanting romantic duology which weaves ancient Chinese mythology into a sweeping adventure of immortals and magic, of loss and sacrifice, where love vies with honor, dreams are fraught with betrayal, and hope emerges triumphant. And that will be available on January the 11th. Next up, very excited about this one. This is on January the 25th from Tor.com Publishing. This is Goliath, and it's described as the first adult novel by Tochi Onyebuchi. All right, wrote Riot Baby. He's written the War Girls duology, young adult duology. In his adult novel debut, it says, Hugo, Nebula, Locus, and NAACP Image Award finalist and ALA, Alex, and New England Book Award winner Tochi Onyebuchi delivers a sweeping science fiction epic in the vein of Samuel R. Delany and Station 11. In the 2050s, Earth has begun to empty. Those with the means and the privilege have departed the great cities of the United States for the more comfortable confines of space colonies. Those left behind salvage what they can from the collapsing infrastructure. As they eke out an existence, their neighborhoods are being cannibalized. Brick by brick, their houses are sent to the colonies. What was once a home, now a quaint reminder for the colonists of the world that they wrecked. A primal biblical epic flung into the future, Goliath weaves together disparate narratives. A space dweller looking at New Haven, Connecticut as a chance to reconnect with his spiraling lover. A group of laborers attempting to renew the promises of Earth's crumbling cities, a journalist attempting to capture the violence of the streets, a marshal trying to solve a kidnapping, into a richly urgent mosaic about race, class, gentrification, and who is allowed to be the hero of any history. I mean, this just sounds fantastic. So this will be out on January the 25th from Tor.com Publishing, Goliath by Tochi Onyebuchi. Now I have two more, and this one comes out February the 1st. And this is a new book by Jessie Mihalik. This is from Harper Voyager. It's called Hunt the Stars. And it goes like this. Octavia Zarola would do anything to keep her tiny, close-knit bounty-hunting crew together, even if it means accepting a job from Torrin Fletcher, a ruthless former general and her sworn enemy. When Torrin offers her enough credits to not only keep her crew afloat, but also hire someone to fix her ship, Tavi knows that she can't refuse no matter how much she'd like to. With so much money on the line, Torrin and his crew insist on joining the hunt. Tavi, it could be Tavi, yeah, because Octavia. We'll say Tavi. Tavi reluctantly agrees because while the handsome stoic leader pushes all of her buttons for both anger and desire, she's endured worse, and the massive bonus payment he's promised for a completed job is reason enough to shut up and deal. But when they uncover a deeper plot that threatens the delicate peace between humans and Valofs, Tavi suspects that Torrin has been using her as the impetus for a new war. Oh, that's uncool. With the fate of her crew balanced on a knife's edge, Tavi must decide where her loyalties lie. With the quiet Valof, who's been lying to her, or with the human leaders who left her squad to die on the battlefield, and this time she's put her heart on the line. Okay, so that is Hunt the Stars by Jessie Mihalik. Jessie Mihalik, I believe, has done a previous series for Harper Voyager, also space opera, but I kind of think her stories may be a little too romancy for my tastes, but if you like that kind of thing, then yeah, mark this on your TBRs for February, I suppose. Okay, and finally, last but not least, moving all the way ahead to April the 12th. This is probably one of the earliest arcs I've ever gotten. We have a debut novel. This looks interesting, God of Neverland. And the author is Gamma Ray Martinez. I'm going to assume it's a short at Gamma. But if not, I'm going to say I am absolutely, completely blown away by the thought of an author whose name is actually Gamma Ray. Right? That is so cool. It's a magical reimagining, it says, of J.M. Barrie's classic tale. Michael Darling, the youngest of the Darling siblings and former lost boy, now all grown up, must return to the life he left behind to save Neverland from the brink of collapse and keep humanity safe from magical and mythological threats, as well as answer the ultimate question, where is Peter Pan? Maponos, or how he's better known, Peter Pan, has gone missing, and Neverland is now on the edge of oblivion. Michael realizes he has no choice and agrees to one last mission. Alongside the young knight Vanessa and some old friends, Michael embarks on the ultimate adventure, a journey to a fantasy world to save a god. Determined to stop evil, fight for Neverland, and find Maponos, will Michael be able to save the magical and physical world, or will his biggest fear come true? The clock is ticking, and in Neverland, that's never a good sign. All right, I know that everyone's tastes don't necessarily run to dark and gritty reimaginings of childhood stories, but, they can always be good. You never know, right? It's always in the execution, isn't it? So, God of Neverland by Gamma Ray Martinez, available April the 12th from Harper Voyager. And there you have it, the end of a very long mailbag, and hopefully you have found a great many things of interest to you. You guys know the drill. Light up those comments, let me know which of these looks most interesting and exciting to you, which you would like to see me prioritize for review. Otherwise, if you enjoyed watching, please hit that like button, share the video far and wide with all of your SFF reading friends, and above all, please subscribe. If you have not done so, that is how the channel grows. Subs are up lately, and I'm very grateful to see that. Thank you very much. You can also support the channel at my TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits into Winx Army get little perks like early access to some of my videos. I use the Patreon money to pay Matt Olson, my extremely gifted channel artist, for all of the beautiful thumbnails that he does for me, as well as all that animation in the Space Opera September video. He did all that for me. It was amazing stuff. So that is what I use the Patreon money for, and so I'm very blessed to have him. As, I guess you might say, the other half of the SFF180 team. The guy who does the work behind the scenes that you never see. So thank you, Matt, and thank you all of my Patreons for that additional support. I also want to thank all the rest of you guys for being the very best viewers in all of BookTube, and until I see all of you next time, please stay safe and healthy, and happy reading.